you? My name is Jere. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. Hey, welcome to another edition of the EntreMusician. We're going to have a great conversation today with a young man that I hooked up with on LinkedIn. I guess we've been vibing about 18 months, more or less. More impressed with him as time goes by. This is a great conversation. You are absolutely enjoy it. I'm going to tell you that already. But before we do that, hey, let's do this. As you know, all of our videos, all of our channels are sponsored by the wonderful people at Vocal. Hey, look, I'm even wearing the shirt. I don't know if you can see it,
there you
but
go.
Vocal is the only beverage on the planet which is designed to soothe, refresh, and restore your voice. If you talk all day or sing all night, or even if you play the saxophone like Dan Young, you got to get yourself some Vocal. So go to drinkvocal.com to learn more. And we're going to be telling you about some specials we're offering on Vocal coming up. But I have with me, sitting to my left, my right, your left, the wonderful Dan Young. And here's what I want to say before I really introduce this gentleman is that, you know, the EntreMusician is about building community.
That's right.
And as I reach out to people, I love engagement. And one thing that Dan has done from the very beginning, reach back, boom, building upon building. And before you know it, we're going to actually be recording together. He doesn't know that yet, but we will be.
I'll take it.
How are you, my friend? Blessings to you.
Thank you. Blessings back to you. Thank you very much. And I'm doing very well. God has been good to me. Life has been good to me. I have a lot of good things in my world. I've got new things developing,
all right.
You know, through difficult times and storms and figuring things out. You know, there's been a consistent rhythm just in my life of understanding patience and understanding the right time to do things. And something I even saw in your post recently, realizing that I already have everything I need. You know, I already have been given everything I need in order to do what I need to do. And so what I've been learning, particularly recently, is just the art of patience, the art of just holding on and resting, not feeling as though I have to push doors open, but let doors open organically. And, you know, this conversation, just you and I meeting, has been a huge part of that. Because I'm realizing that, you know, God or the universe, what have you, brings people to me rather than me having to fight and fight and fight, be something I don't intend to be.
Yes, sir.
But things do come organically in many cases. And so,
they do.
To answer your question, I'm doing well. And
I'm
excited about the future.
That's a beautiful answer. And patience, I'm sure, is really brought on by things that make you either flip out or become patient.
So it really does, you know. And honestly, my co-founder, his name is Danny Lara, and we talk often. And I got to say, he's just a gift, because there have been times and months where, you know, as an entrepreneur, you're building something bigger than yourself. You're building, in some cases, something that's never been done before.
That's right.
And it takes a lot of patience. And there are months where there seems to be nothing happening. And it's easy to become discouraged. It's easy to become, well, just wondering, am I in the right place, right time? Do I have everything I need? And then all of a sudden, things start happening and developing. You start talking to people, meeting people, and things start happening. And it becomes, you're like, okay, all right, I think I'm good. This is great. So, you know, I'm still learning. You know, I'm going to be 50 this year, and I feel like I'm just starting. You know, I feel like that I'm still just learning as much as I can. So life is good for me. Life is really good for me.
Absolutely, it is great. I mean, you know, when you are in the zone, whether things are really happening or not, as long as you're moving toward that goal, you're successful.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Now, let me ask you this question then. So tell us a little about your career. How did you get started? You're a saxophone player.
Yes, sir. Sure. So my father was in the military. And so we lived all over the world. I lived for about 6 years in Europe, in Germany, actually, West Germany at the time. And during that time, being in junior high school, I was introduced to playing saxophones at the age of 10. And I had a really good gift, and you've heard the term having perfect pitch. I have perfect pitch. and it's a gifted kind of a thing. I was playing tunes from the television within a couple of weeks of having the saxophone.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I was doing just a lot of things. And so my mother, being a strong believer and really bringing us to church, got me into going to churches very often and bringing my saxophones with me. So I got oriented very early on in playing sax in church.
So I have to ask you this question. What is I'm naive, so how does playing in church in Germany kind of differ from America?
Great question. What happens is that in Europe, and particularly within the military, you have a tremendous blend of styles, a blend of cultures, because you understand in the military, there's not like an
Black
American
church,
group. There's not a white church. There's not. There may be denominational, but they're filled by everybody. You'll have folks from Ohio. You'll have folks from LA. You'll have folks from New York who will all be in the same area. So you start to understand that. And what I learned early on is that we're all really the same. You know, there might be stylistically differences, and this is again a big part of my upbringing and understanding music, is that there are stylistically very different ways of performing and listening to music. And of course in Europe too, you have of course the history of orchestral music, the history of opera, the history of a variety of types of older music that blended with the African style of music, blended with the Cuban style of music, all becomes a wonderful blend that I've carried over the years coming back to the States. So it's interesting because, yes, it's Germany, but you have everybody from everywhere there at that point. And that really helped blend a lot of my upbringing musically.
So what did the praise band look like in that type of setting? What type of instruments would you have?
So bear in mind, too, when you are in the military, you're moving around a lot. So it's not as though you go to one church for years and years. I've lived in probably a dozen different places before the age of 20. And so you'll have some churches where it's just a little old lady playing a piano, and my mom would drag me up and saying, "My son, play a saxophone." So I'd be up there playing with some little old lady playing the piano. Then sometimes it was a full gospel choir, and I'd be up there jamming away, playing with them too. And then the other times, especially coming back to the States, where it's much more Anglo. It's much more 1 and 2 rather than 2 and 4. So you have much more of a straight ahead type of a performance.
Yeah.
And so having the life of a military kid, it opened me up to dozens of different types of styles. Excellent. So I'm able to hang with them all. I mean, I can go straight ahead jazz if you want. But if we're going to do like some straight up and down hard rock, 4 on the floor, if you want to just do, whatever the case may be, I've really been able to just come in. Of course, blended with having a perfect pitch, I don't need a lot of instruction. I can just come in and just do what people need me to do. And that's been really a gift, is having all of those different cultures and all that different styles to be able to play.
That's excellent. So when did you come back to the States? So your mom had you in the church playing sax. You're 10 years old?
Yeah. So I moved to, I was in Europe from roughly, my father in the military, he was a chief master sergeant. He was the first ground chief for Air Force One. His name is Charles Ernell Young, and bad dude. He's a cool guy.
Thank him for serving, man.
And I shall thank you. He's my hero. And we moved from the States, lived in Europe from 1980, came back to Virginia for a little bit, then back to Germany. But we were in Europe from about 1980 to about 1986-ish. And then from Germany, I lived in North Dakota. And I went to high school and graduated from high school in North Dakota. And then from Dakota,
still playing sax?
Here. Absolutely. Still playing saxophone. And by the way, a very large jazz following in the North, as you probably all know. In the Northwest, huge following for jazz. And so
absolutely,
I cut a lot of my improvisational chops there, as a matter of fact. But yeah, did a lot of traveling.
Wow. So so with all the traveling, did you have any of those respites where you could put together a band or put together a unit and really just gig with one particular group of people?
You know, a lot of the band formulation stuff I did when I moved here to Arizona, where I live now. And in the Phoenix area, about 20, 25, 30 years ago, it was a smaller environment, you know, and so most of my, and even now, most of my affiliations are folks from the church. Because a lot of the performing musicians are performing regularly on Sundays. And so I put together a band. We were called the Dan Young Quartet. We recorded a few albums you can still find uh, on iTunes, Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did some recording, put out some things, did some small touring here and there. But for the most part, it's been mostly just myself being a sideman. And I
Yeah.
found most of my success in where I could just come in, step in, play a couple of solos, maybe play the head, play it on through, and then I'm out. you know.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I just like to be a part of something that's there. I do light songwriting, not much. That's not my strong suit,
I see.
but I love just to decorate what's there. I
Mm-hmm.
love just to add my saying to whatever it is, as long as it's something that the composer finds beneficial.
Now, with all of the styles of music that you've been blessed to play, do you naturally land on jazz, or is there one genre you prefer
Right.
playing over the other?
Uh, Frankly, and that's a great question, and it's a hard question for me because, you know, you love music, you love all kinds. So
True.
I'll take uh, what's been known really as smooth jazz. I usually sound most like that. I think if you want to pick a category, but I enjoy the Brazilian style of jazz. I like the um, straight ahead stuff. You know, my skills on doing bebop aren't that great. I mean,
Uh,
that's really hard. But oh gosh, so fast. Oh, I'm sitting back. I watch these cats go, and I'm like, dude, man, you're so fast. But
the young kids, especially, there's something in the water
right,
with these young
right.
kids.
Man, it's amazing. It's like, what did you have that I didn't when I was growing up, man? I do. I see that on YouTube a lot. There are these young kids, man. You're like, well, there has to be a revival happening, you know, when
Yeah.
it comes to a lot of the bebop and
Yeah.
a lot of the free jazz stuff. There's really a revival, I think.
I
It's
think it gets
fascinating.
better with each generation. I remember when I was the young kid on the block, and
Right.
I can remember how the older guys was like, "Oh yeah, that dude is." And
Right.
now I'm just shaking my head. Some of these kids, I'm sitting there holding my sticks, going, "Where do I jump in?"
It's fun though, because you know it gives me hope, really, right?
Right.
You know, there's a lot of time we have the fear that music is getting stupider and stupider, which I think you can make an argument for that in some ways. But I'll sometimes see online a young man or a young woman who will pick up a bass and she'll do giant steps, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or somebody who's really comping hard on the piano. Like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that's really, really cool, you know. So it gives me
Yeah.
hope that the skills and the craft of understanding music and appreciating are not lost. But we have kids who are coming up who can appreciate, who will love it, and
Yeah.
it gives me a lot of hope. Actually, it's good to see. Great point.
One of the things, and we won't digress too far, but one of the things with respect to, and I didn't watch all of the Grammys, but the little snippets I was able to see, and what the major industry is putting out and what's actually happening on the street are kind of
Yeah.
diametrically opposed, because I see
Mm.
real musicians on the street, but I
Mhm.
don't necessarily see that level of musicianship, at least what's televised. Now,
Right.
obviously, it goes across the board and
It
people win
does.
Grammys that we've never even seen because they
It's
don't
true.
get any TV time.
It's
But
true.
it's always the pop or the look or
Right.
the sound of the day.
Right.
That's all right. That's my sermon. That's
No, it's really worth saying. You know, when artists who have put in a lot of practice and a lot of time and blood and you know when you have studies and you're working with people and you're taking months on a project and we're going to do this take again and we're going to do it again, we're going to make sure it's right and make sure the horns are in pitch and make sure the hits are right on, and you take that level of time and energy and it gets blown up by someone going for an award. You kind of wonder, it almost makes me, and I don't want to never say never, but I almost am at a point to where I no longer desire the awards because I don't want to compromise my values in music. I don't want to compromise great sounding music just to get an award, just to be in front of folks. Again, I don't want to say never because, if this gets played and say the Academy decides not to have me, but nevertheless, I think that there is great value in the musician who puts in the time, the energy, the effort into making something sound flawless.
Correct.
And if it's not popular, I understand that. And unfortunately, there's a popularity that follows a lot of lazy music. And I hate to put it that way. And I don't like putting things down. I truly don't. But I think there's a lot of lazy music that gets far more attention than it should.
Well, it's actually not the music itself. The music itself is not being judged. It's the costume, it's the dance, it's the fireworks going off, it's the acrobatics that's being done. It's how sexy are you? Yeah. It's like, wait a minute, that's not really, we didn't push the sex envelope enough. So this year we're really going to and it's not about the music at all.
I was talking to somebody about that actually. We were discussing and how what changed. I wonder if you can pinpoint in time where it changed from the music being about the music to the awards or the music being about the persona of the artist.
Correct.
So there are some artists, and I'm not going to name any names, but there are artists that are out there where I probably haven't heard much of their work, but I have heard about them all over the place in the news. They're all over Instagram. They're all over wherever else, and I know nothing about how they perform. I know nothing about their upbringing, their musicality. I just know about them as they got arrested, or they were out on the beach, South Beach, and whatever else. So I always look back and I wonder in history what changed, what event changed, from it being about the music to about the persona. And I could name names of times, but I remember when Thriller came out. You remember with Michael Jackson?
Absolutely.
I remember the night it came out. I was in junior high school and living in Virginia at the time, and I remember that our science teacher was talking to the students. He said, "Hey kids, did you guys see that Michael Jackson Thriller? That was amazing. Did you see it was scary? It was raw." But he talked more about the video,
correct,
than he did about the music, about Quincy Jones's piece.
Correct.
So I wonder if that period of time changed from where we start to recognize the persona of people rather than the ability of them to either perform or to play or to record. So I think it would be an interesting study.
Absolutely. I'm certain that when MTV came on the scene, it just went, that was where I think the first video they played is Video Killed the Radio Star. That was the very first video that MTV aired. And from there, it became about the visual, and the music was like, okay, we're going to have our, musicians who are on there. But now it's about the mystique. And if you can recall that early on, the videos had a lot to do with the lyric content. It had a lot to do with the vibe that the artist was saying. And now you may watch a video and what's going on visually has nothing.
That's true.
With the lyric content.
It's so true. And again, I don't want to pick on any artists or anything like that, but if you played the video of certain artists, I'd have no idea what the song would be about.
Absolutely.
And vice versa,
Absolutely.
So it's unfortunate. However, like we were saying earlier, there are things I see in today's youth that do give me hope. I think there's great talent. I think there's an amazing ability. One thing that I really have come to appreciate lately, and it's partly why Sonic Productions exists and Sonica does.
Yeah.
I am appreciating electronic digital music in many forms. And there's one particular form that I love. There are artists who can take movies, who can take other music, who can take other digital media, chop them apart, reformat them, and make a whole new beautiful song from that.
Absolutely.
I think that is an amazing ability, because then you take elements of things. I'm like, oh, that was Groove Tonight. Oh, that was Celebrate. Oh, that was, and then they make something completely new out of it. That's dynamic. I
That's
love that
right.
ability. And a lot of young people are doing stuff like that. So again, elements that give me hope, you know?
Now you're working with because we can move into sonic productions here. Now
Okay.
you're working with artists who are actually doing that
Yes.
for music
Yeah.
production.
Yes. So my role, I found, I'm the co-founder of Sonic Productions, and it's a whole production company. The music licensing element of our company is Sonica.
Mhm.
And we have 6 different producers who create music content, mostly electronic and digital, but we have, bass players and keyboardists. Of course, I play saxophones, who are capable of creating music that we can then digitally license.
Mhm.
Now, the whole point of really even starting this is because I have a heart to serve. I love to serve, and I love music. I mean,
Yes.
it's just what I love to do. Now, playing in churches is wonderful, but generally speaking, playing in churches won't pay my mortgage and won't pay for, my cars, and won't keep my kids in private school. All the
Exactly.
things that you want to do as a dad and as a provider for your family. So
That's right.
I have a day job, and I've had a day job,
Yeah.
but of course you still want to serve, you still want to do things. And so a few years ago, I really had some internal thoughts about how I could actually make this happen. And so my initial thought was, how can I serve? Now, in music, generally speaking, as a sax player, when you're playing, you just go up at a gig, you play, you get paid, you're done. In my mind, I knew there had to be more. There has to be more than just playing a gig. There has to be more than just being a sideman. There has to be more than just doing an album and then it's done and done. So I started thinking about music and serving others, businesses, corporations, advertising, marketing. There've got to be ways where, as a musician, you can do more to help more people, and it could be a lasting kind of an idea. So,
Yeah.
went to my co-founder's house, Danny Lara, like that afternoon, and I said, "Man, I've got an idea. We need to somehow create music and make it so that we can help people by licensing it." And he
Yeah.
goes, "That's a great idea. I've been waiting for you to do this for a long time." Yes. And so over the year and a half, 2 years we've been doing this, we've been cobbling together different other artists who have the same vision, who create great music but have no idea what to do with it.
Sure.
So my job has then become, how do I find people who need this? So I've joined like local here in the Phoenix area. I've joined local business communities, different types of chambers of commerce, and basically telling them, listen, music is what can help carry your message.
That's right.
Music can help your advertise. If you're a plumber and you want to advertise, if you're just up and on your Facebook page talking about your plumbing, you want to have great sounding music that can help carry that message. And I'm here to help you to serve you in order to do that. We have as clients, we have plumbers, we have yoga instructors, we have accountants, we have travel agencies, where we've created great music for their company to
Yeah.
help them to grow in order to deliver a message. And so in my mind, we're getting a chance to serve. And
Yes.
soon we're going to be taking another step with our website to expand that to more than just a local art affiliation, but to really expand that digitally across the world. Actually, we're starting to make some strides. But it's kind of a long answer, and I apologize
No,
for
no, no, no,
being
no.
long-winded.
No,
But
no, no.
thank you.
That's absolutely excellent because what I wanted to ask, in addition to that, was the expansion outside of the Phoenix area
Yes,
for other musicians. And now, are you offering them exclusive deals or non-exclusive deals, or
great question. So
to the
mhm,
artists you work with presently?
right. So the artists that I have, my mission is not only to serve a community, but my mission is also to serve these artists, to serve these producers. A lot of these young men and some women are folks who create music. And frankly, of course, in the music industry and unfortunately the church industry, a lot of them have been taken advantage of,
Certainly,
where they've
absolutely.
come and play and we're going to pay you this, and nothing happens, and it breaks my heart, of course, being a musician myself. So the way I work with my artists is very, very open handed. We want you to be able to create music where we will pay you, and I pay my artists a sizable amount compared to what the company gets. And it's non-exclusive. That means if you want to use that same piece of music elsewhere, go right on ahead. Mm-hmm. If we have a company that wants to have exclusive license for a song, they're going to pay for that exclusive license for that song.
Correct.
My artist gets the payment first. I mean, I give that artist a deposit ahead of time before they even start production. Mm-hmm. Then when the client pays, they get a majority of it. Sonic Productions gets the smaller part of the portion. And that's my promise to them, because I love my artists. I mean, I love my producers. The producers who do this are everything. So it's very open-handed. If I have an artist who wants to even work for another company, I'm fine with that. No big deal. It doesn't bother me at all. I want them to feel like they can serve, and my role is to serve them. And if they feel like that I'm serving them well, I know that my company can't be stopped. Mm-hmm. I know that if I can show them that I love them, I know that we can be, and my pledge is that Sonic Productions will be the world's greatest music production company. Excellent. The world's greatest. That's where we are headed. And I can't do that if my artists don't feel that I have their back. If my artists don't feel that I will do I'll burn my company down before I cheat them.
I understand.
I'm so not to be too hyperbolic here, but
no, I understand.
I truly want my artists, and I call them my artists, but I want for them to feel as though they are loved, that their art and their craft means something, means big things, and together we can do something greater than we can individually. And that's my heart. That's truly my heart and where I want to go.
That's excellent. So the clients that you serve are more corporate based as opposed to film or TV at this point, or are you expanding into those markets as well?
We'll take anybody. So film and TV we'll definitely take.
Gotcha.
However, the local market has been easiest to reach.
Yes.
So we reach those at this point in juncture. We just don't have the financing to fly to LA or to fly to New York in order to do things like that. But I have some contacts in there, but not to the degree to where I will be. So for right now, we stick locally, just companies, churches, local organizations who need our services. And, of course, God willing, we'll take film, we'll take television. In fact, a couple of the artists who work for us have done placement work that have ended up on TMZ, ended up on the Ellen Show, they ended up with the Cartoon Network. So they have that experience to where they've had things placed. And so one of my goals is to allow for the rest of my artists to expand, to enjoy that too. And for us to be a resource for the film, licensing, radio, television, YouTubers, what have you, to be a resource for lots of folks to have the music they need for their services.
That's absolutely excellent. In fact, I'm in the middle of a course right now. Free plug. It's called Master Music Licensing. .com, and nice. Mr. Michael Elsner is the online coach. Nice. And so I've been setting my sights on licensing, because you're right. I mean, the Spotify, Pandora streaming thing has really changed the game. Yes, I used to, if you follow me, I used to like poo-poo a lot of it, but I'm not so much, because there are other avenues that I know are opening, and so we want to take advantage of everything that's out there.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I would say definitely checking that out. Being a resource like you are to artists like that is so wonderful. I'm going to give you again kudos for doing that, because there are many artists who need, even like myself, who living here in Phoenix, Arizona. There's only so much that I know, and there's a lot of noise out there, right? I mean, if you Google how to license your music, you get everything, and so it's hard to know where to go to get good, valuable information. So thank you for being that resource.
Well, we continue to narrowcast. I talk with my team all the time about, first of all, you want to start by being all things to all musicians, but you absolutely cannot. And the one thing that we've settled on, and I think that is starting to really grow at the EntreMusician, is we want to concentrate on the mindset, the discipline, and the focus of being an EntreMusician. I mean, because
Good.
there's 100 places you can go to mix your record. There's 100 places you can go, I mean, online to learn how to market this or how to get on a Spotify playlist or something like that.
Right.
But we are old people. So
Yes,
we've
Wow.
been in this industry locally, regionally, nationally for quite a while. And
Yes.
if you don't have this together, your mind and your heart together, you're not
Right.
going to make it.
Right.
You're not going to make it. You could be as talented as, you know, name that dude. You can be the next Stevie Wonder. But if you don't have your mind right, if you don't have your heart right, your art, you can't sustain your art.
That's right.
Put it out there. And
That's
like
right.
you said before, I mean, you know, I grew up as a church drummer, and I grew up in the ranks of what that means to be a church musician.
Yep.
And my heart is one day to create a service for pastors to allow them to understand what it means to really build that musician up. And one of the best ways to encourage them, first of all, is through giving them proper payment. I mean, it's really very interesting that they'll tell you, don't go out there and play that music. Don't go out there. But you know what? And I would say it. I'm 14 years old. And the church mothers will say, don't be playing that devil's music. And I don't mean this in a disrespectful or insensitive manner. I'm a man of faith. But at that age, I would say, hey, yo, the devil pays. I'm going down the street. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you mean.
Like, yo, unless you're going to do some of that.
Come on now.
So I can get my 10-speed bike fixed.
Come on now.
Here to the church. I mean, my chain broke up my bike and nobody can help me.
But
you want me here at choir rehearsal.
Right? No, I'll tell you this. I'm going to tell you something. You speak so much truth in that. People who are listening to this, who are artists and who have grown up in the church playing music, know exactly what we're talking about. There's not even a question in that.
Exactly.
One of the things that, yes, pastors need to understand and worship directors need to understand is that you have people growing up in the church who are not listening to that music you're playing in the church on their downtime.
That's correct.
They're listening to everything else.
That's
and
correct.
and that's how they get their thrill. That's how they're enjoying it. So the church needs to do a better job on finding ways to make that music that thrills me to align with how we get a chance to know God.
That's correct.
You make those two come together and you will be able to have young people who not only play music, but they want to serve God playing great music. And don't discourage that.
That's right.
Encourage that. One of the things you were talking about, how you can help, not only is helping pastors, but also helping musicians understand finance.
Yes.
Understand finance. Understand how to balance a checkbook.
Yes.
Understand how to save their money. Understand how to maybe even invest their money so they can buy the nice keyboards, the really nice gear, nice kits, and what have you.
That's right.
Save your money and do it right, because many young artists, young musicians get blown out because somebody offers them a ton of money up front, and then they get taken. They get taken because they don't understand the value of that.
That's right.
So I so agree with that. I think that's a great way to go, Jerry. I love your thinking on that, and people can really be served by that.
Absolutely. Well, that's the mindset, discipline, and focus. And most of the things that you'll read on the blogs, or most of the things that you'll see or hear as we do the podcast, are a result of huge mistakes that were made, by this old man. It's like, you might not want to go down across that bridge because there's a part of that bridge that's out. What you want to do is detour. And you'll get to the other side, but you don't want to break your leg like I did.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. There, when it comes to even sharing our faith, we want to share that it is a great way to live.
Absolutely.
It's a good way to live. Yes, I've made mistakes. Yes, I've not understand things. I'm not doing it, but it's a really great way to live. And when you tell young people, hey, listen, when I'm telling you to make sure you go where you get paid, get taken care of.
Correct.
I'm not saying it because I'm trying to hurt you. I'm saying it because you'll feel more fulfilled. When you get paid to pay a gig, then you'll come back to church and you won't regret it. You won't be conflicted on, should I play for the Lord exclusively, or do I need to do this or do this? And you won't have that conflict. So, honestly, you're speaking to the minds and the hearts to many young people who grew up in the church playing, because there's a big conflict. You
Yes.
know, when you hear some stuff out there in the world and you're like, man, but that just grooves. That's just a beat.
Correct.
But, you know, I can't do that here in my church.
Let me tell you something. There's
well said.
Man, there's got to be a second interview conversation between us because,
right.
Well, there'll be a second conversation because that would take us down an entirely different.
We can do a rabbit hole.
Yeah. Right, so I'm backing up in my mind. I'm going. Not yet.
That's right. That's right. I hear you, brother.
But so Sonic Productions began 2 years ago.
Yes, sir.
And tell us the difference between Sonic Productions and Sonica.
Yes, sir. So Sonic Productions is an overarching umbrella. And the idea behind having an umbrella company as an LLC is so that we can break down and add different elements to the company underneath it. Mm-hmm. So my licensing company is Sonica, and that's where we have our library of music. And so if those who are listening, you can go to our website at www.sonicproductions.biz. You can
right there on top of it.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. And you'll see a place where you can click through about us. You'll see the playlist of music, the different genres we have. We even have a place if you want custom music where you can put in information. So we have a lot of things that are there that allow for you to have licensed music for your needs. Now, we also would do podcasts. I have a couple of podcasts that I do. I actually hire myself out to do, there are a couple of podcasts I'm doing right now. I'm looking to do more and expanding that. And so we're going to have that as underneath the umbrella of our LLC. Eventually, we want to do, they're called music packs. And so if for artists who use Ableton, GarageBand, Pro Tools, you know that they sell packs, music packs. And so eventually we want to create our own music packs so that as you do a particular recording or what have you, you can have packs that you can get from us, licensed from us. That'll be another venue. So we have an overarching umbrella for the idea of growth because we want to do more than just licensed music. But we want to be a production company where we're creating lots of things. And so one of my artists is also a sound designer. So he actually creates sounds. He'll go to places and record leaves crunching. He'll do a lot of those things. And when you can have that, that opens up us to being part of maybe the film community, people who are doing all sorts of things. So the idea is to have an overarching corporation and embedded within that several different pillars. I even foresee having a charitable giving arm as well, where we have a charity that's underneath that LLC. But of course, that's not developed yet. But anyway, my idea is growth. And great. A lot of times you want to spread out the net, and then things come. So this is me kind of spreading out the net, and then things grow within that. So again, God brings people to me who fill that up. But that's the idea. And that's the main difference, to answer your question.
That's excellent to distinguish between the two. Now, how much music publishing do you get into with regard to working with your artists? Do you provide publishing for them, or do they come pretty much self-contained as composers and publishers?
That's a great question. Much of what they do is already self-published, and so they'll already do their own publishing.
Gotcha.
But many of the works are not published. They're basically just works we have on our website. We do it specifically because we want non-exclusivity with these pieces of work. Yes. So if somebody is in Norway and they see our website, they want to download a song, they can do that. Somebody is in Alaska, they can do that. And it's the same piece, and that can be used over and over and over again, just to maintain non-exclusivity with that song. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Now, but you mentioned earlier on about taking the slices of different songs and creating original compositions out of them. How does that work with respect to copyright clearances before they're licensed to a corporation?
Well, that's a great question too. A lot of this journey, I'll be honest with you, I'm still learning. So there's a lot of elements to it, especially when it comes to large scale corporations, that I have to be careful of. Now, we do have licensing, and we can, of course, have a mutual license that they sign off onto, we sign onto, that basically says, listen, this is specifically for this process. So if you're going to use our song, you've got to use it just for what we're paying for.
Gotcha.
If you're going to be using for television or for radio, we've got to have another agreement. There's got to be something else that's there. So we get a chance to right now, especially when it comes to original art, get to know what that artist is needing it for, whatever that developer is needing it for, if that corporation is needing it for. If it's all going to be just self-contained within their organization, that's one thing. But if they're going to be using for their advertising on radio, television, internet, then we need to have that conversation also. And so we try to provide that through our playlists.
Because they have, what's the service that's called now? You can hold your phone up to it. It's an app, and it can name the song.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, iTunes will do that actually too.
Yeah,
your iPhone will do that. Yeah.
So just, especially as far as this is another thing, as far as independent artists are concerned, to make sure that they are protecting their songs, that their songs are appropriately copyrighted, as well as their publishing is in place, not just for the United States, but in sub-publishing countries as well, that they have those things lined up, because you're not all over the world at once as an independent artist. You don't have an MCA or Universal Publishing backing you up. So if somebody's playing your stuff in Zimbabwe and you don't know it and nobody's paying, you know what I mean?
You'll never know. That's right. And so a lot of this starting this company is in that discovery, in finding out how's the best way I can protect my players. And like I was saying before, there's a lot of noise, where to find the best resources in order to be able to help that way. There's a lot of noise out there just on the internet. And so I'm still investigating a lot. If there are people out there who know more about it, I'm open to finding out how's the best way I can protect. So, even us dialoguing and talking, I appreciate it, because that's a lot of the things I need to hear is just to make sure I'm protecting these guys, protecting our brand, protecting our players. Great question. Great question.
That's what, I'm learning how to ask them. Here's another great question. What was the most incredible event that you've ever experienced as an EntreMusician? Was it more the creative when you were on stage or recording, or was it setting up your business? What was that moment for you as an EntreMusician?
Wow, boy, it's such a big question. I should be prepared for that question.
I didn't prepare you beforehand.
No, you did not. So I before I started Sonic Productions, I have always played music a long time, and I wanted to create music. In I'd say about 2000, I really decided I wanted to do an album, and I had no idea how to do it. I didn't know any artists, any recording artists. I didn't have any place to go, and so I talked to a few friends who are playing in different churches around what we call the Valley here in Central Arizona. And I said, hey, guys, I want to do an album, and I want you to play along with me. And they said, okay, let's do it. So I talked to my dad, and he goes, well, I can give you a little bit of money if you want, and see what you can do with it. So I said, okay, here's a budget of what I want to play. So I just got together with some artists. I said, let's write some songs. Let's write some music. Okay, so we got together, and we just created some music. Had about 7 songs, pretty decent ones. And another friend of mine was a worship leader at a church, and this church happened to have a recording studio where they could record. I said, how about I record some music at your church in exchange to maybe doing a few concerts, because I don't have any cash really to really do much. Yeah, sure. So during their off hours, like midnight to 2 o'clock, we would record. So make a long story short, under budget, we came up with a great album, and it's my debut album back in 2000 for virtually no money. That sounds great. It sounds good. And I was thrilled by that. It was just an amazing experience to like out of nothing to create this CD. And I had a bunch of CDs made. I did some performing around, again, the Valley, what we call here, in different churches. I sold some CDs. I'm like, this is so much fun. I got to do it again. So I did a Christmas album, and same kind of thing, just guerrilla style, just cobbling things together, bringing people together, and people loved it. And then I did a third one called Hymnology, where we took hymns and we set them to jazz. It's a beautiful album. So if you check that out, check that out. It's really, really nice. But all in all, that experience taught me that I'm more than just a player. I can produce, and I can put people together, and I can motivate people from different avenues to create great things in order to do big things.
Yeah.
Not a one-time event really, but it's just a series of things that had me going, this is my calling, is to help create, is to help get people together and create great things.
Yeah.
That's my calling. I would say, that's probably what's inspired me just to do this, is because I love to get people together from a variety of different, album cover designers, people who know how to distribute, marketing people, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Get them together in a room, wave my hands around and say, here's the big picture of what we want to do. You do this, you do that, you do this, you do this. And then we come up with something beautiful in the end of it. And that is a happy marriage,
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, you took me there. That's a wonderful experience. So let's flip it. And conversely, we started out the conversation talking about patience. So what has been the most frustrating experience you've had as an EntreMusician?
Hey, that's a great question. The waiting. The waiting. I think I said earlier, I'm going to be 50 this year.
Yeah.
And the struggle that sometimes we have, and you've heard like a midlife crisis, you've heard just where this time of life, you can reflect and wonder, what have I done? And you think in my terms, I look at the statistics, statistically, we men live to about 76 years of age. So I sit back and I think, I've got about 26 more years if you look at the averages. What can I do today to make sure the next 26 years are spectacular, are great? What can I do right now in order to make the next 26 years absolutely dynamic? And not just from a musician point of view, but from my son, my daughter, my wife, physically, just mentally. I need to draw closer to God. I need to do things with my friends I've ignored. I need to make sure that they're doing well, my neighbors. So I would say that the hardest part is just recognizing that time is short. That we don't have an eternity. We have a limited amount of time. I hired a personal trainer about a month ago. So I'm in the gym now. And so my arms hurt. But no, I'm not going to lie to you.
I can take it.
And my trainer, he's 24 years old. And so I said, listen, man. And I told him this very same story about, I got 26 years. And he goes, okay. And I said, two things, man. I want to look good. Secondly, you need to push me.
Right.
Because I've lived a life where I have let excuses stop me from doing things. And I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to have conversations with great people across the country that I've never shaken the hand with. I'm going to play music wherever they want me to. I'm going to, work with artists. I'm going to take steps of faith. I'm going to try things out and I'm going to go for it. And so the next 26 years I have are going to be spectacular, where I grow a great company, work with awesome people, and do amazing things. That's not exactly the answer of the most frustrating.
It's a brilliant answer because my next birthday, which rolls around in just a couple of days, I will be 55.
Boom! Double nickels, my friend. Happy birthday in advance.
Thank you.
Yes,
and
sir.
I can recall approaching my 50th and thinking the same way.
Yep.
And so there was no EntreMusician when I was 50.
Right.
You know what I mean? There was no writing, taking the online course for film and TV when I was 50. Right. These things, I just said, what is it and how can I push the envelope a little bit for Jere? I got a personal trainer for maybe 2 weeks. I went to
I'm 1 week ahead of you.
I went to Planet Fitness the rest of the time so I could push me. You know what I mean? Right. But you're absolutely right. Life is short, and if we haven't learned anything from the Kobe Bryant tragedy, which was unfortunate. And not only respect to him and his family, but all of the 9 families that have been affected by this tragedy, is that it can be over
God bless
like
their
that.
families. God bless their families. Good
God
stuff.
bless
Good
them.
stuff. That's right.
So
Good.
what you're doing in the now and what you're planning for, go for it with all your heart, because one day it'll be no more.
Yep, I received that. You're so right. You preach it. The good news, and I always say this, is that we are in the best of times right now.
Absolutely.
We are able to connect like this, you and I. We're thousands of miles away.
That's right.
But it's like you're sitting here, man, in my studio. That's how it feels, you know?
Yes, sir.
And it's good, and we're able to share and encourage each other. You know, it's a great time because you can do music across the world.
Correct.
We can listen. I can listen to some of my favorite stuff. I listen to Pavarotti. And he has this great opera, this song called Nessun Dorma. It's very popular, but it's just, I can listen to music like that, you know, here in Arizona. You know, there's a lot of things that we didn't have 5 years ago.
That's right.
We didn't have resources. We didn't have a lot of things, 20 years ago. You think of when we were kids, you know, we just didn't have nearly the resources we do now. This is a great time to be alive. And so I want to take as much advantage of that as I possibly can, and get a chance to serve others, be able to bless others, so that people can do this again and again and again and have a lot of fun doing it. And frankly, I want for my colleagues to build wealth doing this. I want them to be in a place where they don't have to work at, fast food part-time and, juggle things, but they can make music their one and only gig, and they can give 100% at it and feel blessed doing it, and feel like they're taken care of. It thrills me, because I think I'm getting closer and closer with every day, just getting to that goal. So it's a good time to be alive.
Dan, man, it's an absolute pleasure speaking with you, brother. I have one more question before concluding.
Okay.
I mean, you're right. You know, thousands of miles away, but there's a kindred spirit here.
Amen.
I knew it was going to be a great conversation. I appreciate you giving me the time to bless me with your spirit, man, on the EntreMusician.
Yes,
I want to say one more thing before I ask this final question. And you said it's a great time to be alive, and you named all of these technical things. And the one thought that I had was, you know what? Not only can we really enjoy Pavarotti, but we can put a hip hop beat behind it too. If we
could.
You know what I mean?
I'm telling you. We could change how things have been to make them our own.
That's right.
It wouldn't make it better. That's not the point.
Sure.
It's just, it would be different, and it would have its own sound and its whole texture to it. There are lots of people out there who've taken the classics, who have added a backbeat to it. And I've done some playing around my stuff. I'm not going to share with anybody, but there's some things that you can do that you can just make the world different the way you can see it. Good point.
Man, that's excellent. Well, here's my final question for you.
Yep.
When you agreed to come on, was there a question you thought perhaps I would ask you and I did not ask? So whatever that unanswered question is now, would you kindly answer that?
Man, you're good. Jere, I'm going to tell you something. You're good. You're really good. Frankly, I really had my mind open in this conversation. I did. I didn't know what to expect. I've seen your shows before with Bob Baldwin and with other people, and I know it's wide ranging. I'm comfortable with that. I love this setting to where there's no agenda to it. I love it. Brother, I can't think of anything really, just being able to share with each other and just the dialogue, where we coming from. And I'll tell you this, some of the most entertaining podcasts and video casts that I see are ones where it's very open.
Yes, sir.
There's not like these set questions. I want to ask you this is like an interview,
Exactly.
But it's very open. And we already know you and I can do rabbit hole stuff, and so we know that we could probably trail off, because we have very similar backgrounds in music and the church and with faith and with and entrepreneurship. So there's so many different things we can talk about. So I think what makes it most entertaining is when it's wide ranging, it's open, no expectations. This was fun.
Absolutely fun for me. And I appreciate you. I really do. I
Thank you, sir.
appreciate your heart. I appreciate what Sonic Productions is doing.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate your commitment to the artists that you
That's right.
serve.
That's right.
Appreciate the commitment that you have to your clients as well,
Yes.
because that's very, very special. Taking
Yes,
care of the client, making sure that that company thinks of one name when
Mhm.
they're ready for their next campaign.
That's
and
it.
it's yours.
That's it. That's what we want. We want to be the whole thing. We want we want for the world to think, and when we're thinking of good music, we think Sonica. When we think great production work, it's Sonic Productions. That's the name that comes up. And so, God willing, we're gonna get there, and we get there one step at a time.
Yeah.
And we have fun doing it, and God's in charge of the whole thing. So we're having fun.
Well, thank you so much, man. Peace and blessings to you. Thank you all for tuning in and joining us. My name is Jere B. That's the incredible Dan Young. He is the ultimate EntreMusician. You're an EntreMusician. Go make it happen. We'll see you next time.
Do it.